Wale won't be in attendance this evening.
Okay. We have a quorum. Would you like to begin?
Are we ready on the text side, Jacqueline?
We are. We're ready.
Okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen and we will start the meeting. Thank you.
Welcome one and all to the January 27th. It is January 27th meeting of the UIDRB. The next meeting will be February 24th, same time, same place. I guess I need to swear the city staff first, correct?
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Let's call the roll. Doreen?
Here.
Carrie Reeves is here. Phoebe?
Here.
Frank? Here. Wonderful. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the previous meeting?
Yes.
Are there any comments?
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting. A second.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll. Or all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. They're approved. So now I believe we are ready for the first case. Are we not? Wonderful. UID 22-1-004, 1445 Neal Avenue. Is the applicant in attendance? You are.
Here, excuse me, you might clear that they have to have 4 votes.
But this is just conceptual.
Oh, it is
This
conceptual.
is conceptual. That's all we have to
So we
do.
have one.
Yeah, but they need a vote. If they do.
Oh.
It has to be unanimous.
Okay, so this is just conceptual? Good point.
Sorry.
Okay.
I will shut up.
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Staff review?
Yes. So 1445 Neal Avenue is a contributing apartment structure, which was originally 2 single-family homes built in 1908. The applicant is seeking conceptual feedback to construct an addition to the existing building on the west elevation, which will increase the number of dwelling units from 10 to 13, increase the FAR to 0.91, reconfigure the parking area, and remove and rebuild the Neal Avenue entry. The new addition will match the existing roof slope and will have fiber cement siding or hardy board. And on the east elevation, the applicant is proposing to convert an existing arched window into wood patio doors, update the main entry, and add a canopy. Lastly, the applicant is proposing to replace all existing non-original windows on all elevations and infill a window opening with brick on the south elevation. The owner would like to clean and restore the painted brick facade, and if the brick is salvageable, the window on the south elevation would not be infilled and receive a new window. Rear landscaping and exterior lighting materials will be a part of the final design, but they haven't been finalized yet. To accompany the above work, zoning variances will be presented at a later date to the board for consideration once submitted to Building and Zoning Services. And the submittal includes a site plan, floor plans, elevations, and existing site photos. And to quickly look at their meeting materials, this is the site. So you'll see here, this is the Neal Avenue frontage where my little hand is. And then if you look towards the back of the building, this is where the addition will take place. So this is the existing site plan and this is proposed. So anything in light gray is new building. And then you'll see the rearranged parking in the rear. And then we have the proposed floor plan, first and second and third floors. And then this is the front elevation. So this arched window here on the left-hand side, is proposed to be converted into patio doors. And then you'll see here that this, what is now like a connector piece, will be redone to better match the existing building. So you'll see these elevations. So this is the addition here. And then this is the rear of the building. So you'll see the addition obvious right here with a rear entry. And then these are existing photos of the site. So this is the front elevation on Neal Avenue. And then this is the rear in its current form. And then some more photos. This is of the front elevation. So after staff review, The proposal is largely consistent with the recommendations of the University District Plan. The plan recommends a site for medium intensity residential use, which is an FAR of 0.6, preservation of the existing contributing buildings, and double stacked parking spaces. The plan states that the scale and proportion of additions be compatible with those of contributing buildings, that the contrast between old and new be reflected with contemporary design and materials, and that additions should not obscure or destroy existing significant building features or materials. Furthermore, the plan recommends that original architectural features be maintained, that trash and recycling be screened, and that bicycle parking be provided. As the proposal is generally preserves and or enhances the contributing building and is compatible with the existing scale of the contributing building, staff is generally supportive of the conceptual application with the following requested design changes. And that is that all replacement windows be a window type from the UID approved window list, that the window on the south elevation not be infilled and instead have a window per the note above, that the arch window on the east elevation remain a window in lieu of new patio doors, that the window proportion and size on the rear addition match the proportion and size of the contributing building, and to consider a contrasting material such as board and batten for replacement of the existing connector. A brick material would be confused as original design, so we're looking for a more contemporary material to show that it's not original. And then detail the new foundations on the north and west elevations. The elevations currently show siding all the way down to grade, and normally we would see the detail of the foundation. And then staff notes that a final list of variances will be needed for review upon a future request for action. Thank you.
Would the applicant like to add to that?
That was a pretty thorough rundown of the design.
Office is good.
He was very good. A lot better than that Dan guy that used to be here.
Yeah, we tell him that all the time.
There are some two-bit architecture firm decided to hire.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So I know you're going to be coming back. I've just got a quick question with variances. So existing, how many parking spaces do you have currently?
You know?
I thought I did this when I reviewed last week, and it seems like you've got an equal number, but just that again, I know you're not here for variance approval, but just you cannot count stacked spaces, 2 spaces, correct?
Yeah, you can.
You can't? Okay.
Yeah.
We counted as 3.
You got small cars.
It's one of those math things.
There's 12 existing spaces and 12 proposed.
I'm sorry?
12 existing spaces and 12 proposed.
Okay.
I had the same problem. I had to go.
Let me do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So no other additions to this thing? No?
I mean, we can walk through the design, but Focus did a pretty good job of that. Generally, the existing conditions inside the building, the 10 units, they're typical old style off-campus housing, very small, cramped. So the purpose of this is to completely gut the interior and revamp it for nicer bedroom sizes, kitchens, and also add in some additional units to make the project economic.
So how many units are you adding? 3. Okay.
As far as her comment about the siding going down to grade, I think it's a good point. But the dwelling unit in that corner is fully handicap accessible, so first floor is at grade. Trying to figure out that detail of how that siding comes down and terminates to show some of the foundation is a little tricky because the site is almost perfectly flat.
Yeah. What is the railing material there?
Wood. As for the Neal Avenue elevation, where we're removing a window and putting in doors for a patio, we're trying to maximize the number of units that have patios or balconies or some kind of outdoor living space. And by adding a patio on that side, it helps bring symmetry to the building, kind of tie the building together. The arch is existing, and we'd just be cutting down to the first floor level and putting in custom doors.
Bradley, is your microphone on?
The green light's on.
Yeah, it's,
We put it a little closer to it.
yeah, it's just getting a little hard to hear. And is there a photo of the building, existing photo?
Yeah, the last 3 pages are
Oh, I
photos of the building.
We can, thank you.
Bradley, I only have one comment. Your addition, for me, either needs to be more similar to the front or less similar to the front. Right now, I don't know what it is.
Okay.
And these sort of square paired double hung windows don't cut it. So pick one is kind of what I would tell you.
Okay.
I agree with Frank, because I think since you're expanding the mass in and you're on the alley side, I think it gives you the legitimacy to make a new statement. You know, high quality, looking good in the area, but I think it's preferable in my mind, rather than trying to make it, force it to look like that, to do the things that are appropriate for the interior spaces and so on, but to let that element read as a contemporary piece of architecture. I agree. I don't think you're limited by the facade logic and language, and I think that could possibly make the spaces nicer.
Yeah.
I think it would make the architecture more interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you.
As far as the front entry, focus admit making that more contemporary as well. Do you think that would?
But what are you
Add to
doing
it to
new
mention.
exactly? What, can you show us what new you're doing exactly on the front?
Well, right now where the main entry is when the 2 houses were combined, sometimes looks like it maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, I was wondering what that was.
That is what we want to replace. So my idea is to try to tie the front facades together a better way than that thing.
Well, another way would be to that thing nice. I don't know if it's possible, but there might be a way to make it nice rather than to try to replicate the other fabric next to it. I don't know. Think about it, but it's always hard to recreate, right?
Mhm.
And if you follow KB's advice, make the rear contemporary. Maybe there's the concept of the front going through to the rear, and they somehow are related to one another, and the artifacts separate. That could be a way of thinking about it.
One of the things I like about the facade drawing that you have, and again, it's super hard to read because of materials and so on, but is the prominence of the main entry and the knee walls that pull it together so that that's primary and then there's support and stuff behind it. So that, making that happen and keeping that would, in my read of it, mean diminishing and probably taking off the modern facade that's there. So I guess I'm suggesting that I support the more traditional response to the front, where you build up the read and the predominance of that center entrance and really focus the more progressive, possibly new materials on the alley side.
In doing so, though, I think we're going to be pretty critical about the detailing of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That heavy lintel, I don't think working on the second floor with regard to everything else. Just as an example, it's a little odd. And it's going to be I don't.
Yeah, I think it's how it's about that. I really agree with you. You want that element to be quality because it's within the physical realm. It's the closest thing to you and so on. So it would be worth making that pretty nice. I don't have a problem right now with the weight of it, but I think looking at how materials and colors and all of that are going to work, worth putting some energy into.
I look at it and I wonder why it's different than the other ones. I don't know if it's different enough. Basically, the other ones have arch tops. I'm not saying it needs to have an arch top, but
Could be stacked brick.
to me, it shouldn't be ambiguous. It should be different.
But are these each of these are main entries into a unit?
No.
No, that's
The
the
main
main
entry is
entrance.
the main
Main
front door.
entry sits.
There you go. That's legible in your architecture. I think that's good. The others are patio doors.
Yes.
Got it.
Oh, what is the weirdness? There is weirdness. What is that on the, between the roofs? I'm
The
just
two
looking at
arrows,
it now.
yeah, yeah.
What is that?
So the existing third floor, that is where the corridor circulation area is between the units up there. And that's how we get into those
Can we
existing
get a roof
units.
plan, please?
I have not drawn one yet.
Chicken.
Plan.
Where are we?
Right in the middle, I think, yeah.
So it doesn't show there? It's above that?
The part of that center circulation area, part of that wall is what you're seeing in that elevation. So
Oh, it's that stair tower? It's that stair?
it's
the that.
the stair in the corridor.
So where that, oh, and the corner. So that corner there, oh, stop a minute. Show me the corner,
Yep, that
right there.
corner.
That's the corner. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yep.
We're seeing from the front.
Yes.
The elevation again, please. I would think it would be sheer. It wouldn't have that left portion of it. You would just.
That well, the left portion is
The
forward,
hallway.
that's where that hallway is. And then the right portion is the entrance, the existing entrance into that unit.
What if we're all glass?
How much is going to be seen from the street? Taking perspective into consideration.
Yeah, I would say. Sidewalk on that side or across the street?
You can see the current wall that we would be covering part of it up from the street. So you would be able to see part of that.
That's great.
Well, the photos in the packet, you can see it in the,
Yes, I would suggest a three-dimensional view.
yeah, you can see it on A33, you can see that corner sticking out.
So it's all proud of the,
Yeah, it sticks out for you.
please go back. It's all. So the plane of the front roof that's lying back, that's above the center entrance, is in front of that thing?
Yes. Sheds back to it.
So what if that weren't a hip?
If that went straight back,
Yeah.
yeah, that would cover it up.
Well, look at it. Look at that at least. Then you don't have to worry about the roof. And the hip is sort of nice, but it's not nice when there's the Titanic's prow sticking out above it. Still don't quite see the chair.
I mean, I think that my suggestion would be something three-dimensional. Better, you know.
Anna's actually been working on a model for it, we just didn't have time to put it into this.
Blame the intern.
No, it's my fault. She's working on it. And it's funny you mentioned the roof, because she's like, I don't understand how this roof works. Give you a moment.
This is staff. I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear. When we're looking at the front elevation, I just wanted to be clear. Are we in a place where we're okay with this middle section being brick, but having some elements that differentiate it from the two original structures? Or are we wanting this middle portion to be a more contemporary, material to clearly differentiate it?
It's up to the designer. I think that there are a couple of options that could represent really good design solutions, and I guess I'd rather have Bradley study it. I like what I see right now because I like the weight of the front door relative to the rest of the structure. But it's impossible to make judgments beyond that because it's a black and white line.
Yeah.
Understood.
Everything Katie said, I think there are two fundamental approaches. One is to make the entry similar enough in character that the whole front thing appears to be of a piece and sort of aesthetically harmonious. The other is to make the front piece sufficiently different that there is a kind of clarity, like Frank was suggesting, between the front piece and the side pieces. I find the language of preservation a little unnuanced, I guess. Shippo likes to use the whole similar but compatible thing, and I don't find it to be very good language in actually discussing the design solution. But I think both Katie and Frank have provided good comments in terms of the two and potential approaches. And I would agree with Katie that I think we would expect the designer, despite his blaming for things, is perfectly capable of coming back with the right solution.
And we'll want to, if you do something that's in brick, then we'll look at the color of the brick, the color of the two side colors and the center color. You know, you're not going to match it, then you can figure something else out, right?
Right.
So.
Okay. Any other comments? Are you okay to proceed to the next meeting? Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Thanks for coming. Okay. Then we are on to UID 22-1-05, 1503 Hunter Avenue.
Yes. So 1501 to 1511 Hunter Avenue is a contributing brick apartment structure built in 1902. The applicant is seeking conceptual feedback to construct a second floor additions over the two northern bump outs of the west elevation. The proposed additions are similar to the existing second story addition currently on the southern bump out. Additionally, the applicant is proposing to remove and rebuild the front porch foundations with painted CMU and lattice while maintaining the existing columns and roof structures. Lastly, all existing vinyl windows are proposed to be replaced with new vinyl windows, which will be sized to fit the original opening, and the basement window openings are proposed to be filled with new plywood and stucco. New exterior finishes will be included and will be presented at a later date once finalized. And to accompany the above work, zoning variances will be presented at a later date to the board for consideration once submitted to Building and Zoning Services. And the submittal includes a site plan, floor plans, elevations, and existing site photos. And if we go to these meeting materials, here's the site. So this is the front Hunter Avenue frontage where the porches will be redone here. And then in the rear, this porch or this addition on this corner is existing, but then there are these bump outs, and that's where the additions will be proposed to be constructed. So we have some zoomed in site plan or floor plans here showing that. And then we have elevation. So this is the front elevation. Showing, the porch detail and what that will look like. You see here, there are some existing arched windows that are currently boarded over, and the window openings. Here's the north elevation showing the side. So you'll see that basement window there that's proposed to have the plywood and stucco. And then you see here, so on the right-hand side, second floor, this is existing, and then these are the additions that are being proposed in the bump outs. And then again, another side elevation showing that, and then the basement windows as well. And then we have some existing photos of the site here, and here, and here. So after reviewing this proposal is largely consistent with the recommendations of the University District Plan. The plan recommends this site for high-intensity residential use and places priority on the preservation of existing contributing buildings. The plan states the scale and proportion of additions be compatible with those of the contributing building, that the contrast between old and new be reflected with contemporary design and materials, and that additions should not obscure or destroy existing significant building features or materials. Furthermore, the plan recommends that original architectural features be maintained, that windows and doors that are no longer used should be maintained and left in place, and that replacement doors and windows should fit the entire opening with no filler or additional framing. As the proposal preserves a contributing building and the additions are in scale with the existing building, staff is generally supportive of the conceptual application, but recommends the following design updates. And that's that giving the contributing nature of the structure, all replacement windows be a window type from the UIDRB approved window list, and that the segmental arched infill details be maintained. We also recommend that the basement window openings not be boarded over with stucco, but rather be filled in with a fixed window or glass block. To fill in the east elevation third floor arched windows with glass windows in lieu of leaving them covered over. To swap the rear entrance doors with the front entrance doors, as half-light doors are more appropriate as front doors for this building style, and to slightly reduce the width of the rear additions so as not to obscure the arch details of the second floor window openings that remain. And staff notes that material cut sheets and a final list of variances will be needed for review upon a future request for action. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting project because we're just doing piecemeal portions of the exterior. The front facade, the first time I saw the building, was really excited because it's a really interesting and beautiful building. And the detailing that's on the porch and the columns, we want to maintain that, but the existing decking and structure below is in really bad shape. So the idea is to go in and replace that foundation, put in concrete slab on grade, a concrete block, and then a faux lattice on front of it. Place all the concrete steps. Almost all of the existing basement windows are already boarded up. It's campus, kids break basement windows all the time. So filling in those and covering them with stucco seems to be the best solution for the most durable and sustained. Avoid having a bunch of broken windows all the time because anybody who's rented off campus, you don't want to tell your landlord that you broke a window. As far as the additions that we're doing on the west elevation, they are above the existing bump outs. There's an existing one on the south side, and we want to add on to the other two bump outs. I don't know when the existing one on the south side was put on, so we're just pretty much going to leave it there and reskin it and put in new windows to match the fenestration of what we're doing with the other two additions. And replacing all the windows of the building because they're old vinyl. One thing Belkis did mention, you look at the photos, E3 series, a lot of white trim, and I realize it's an existing contributing building, but the white windows actually work really well with the white trim on at least the front of it, just because it all ties in really nicely together, which is why we propose the replacement windows to also be white vinyl.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Board members, any comments?
Yeah, I guess that's an existing condition. Visually, the thing that bothers me the most is the white foundation under the porches.
Was that plywood?
That looks like plywood. So what is your replacement for that? You mentioned that they're rotting and falling off, and you're going to reconstruct them with
Yeah, so this is just
lattice.
Yeah, this is just a screening over top of the actual foundation portions. The existing columns go down and sit on concrete piers. So we're going to take out those concrete piers and cut down the posts and put in an actual CMU foundation for them to sit on, and then cover that with faux lattice.
Cover it with,
Like a wood lattice.
and did you have an idea in mind about what that would look like, what kind of color? What texture?
No, we haven't talked about colors yet.
I think it needs something dark to ground it.
When you say lattice, you mean a grid?
Looks
No,
like
it
a
doesn't.
vertical, it doesn't look
You
like.
know,
a
they're,
glass.
they're vertical
Yeah, the
slats.
vertical works, but the little
No
lattice
lattice.
is nice. Freddie, I can tell you, you could do anything you want for this building for $11. I don't care if you would replace those 5 doors.
That's exactly.
They are nasty.
Exactly.
Everything else is fine.
I don't think I've ever heard Frank say that to anyone.
I know,
Yeah.
that's a deal.
Get it writing, get it writing.
No, you've got.
This is staff. Given,
5 and not 6 or 4, okay? I think it's great. But those doors,
this
The
is
roof
staff.
on the-
How do we feel about a half-light door on the front facade of the building?
Isn't that the back that you were just at the?
I think staff is saying front should.
Oh, should be, okay.
half light usually means back door. A full light
Full-light.
is better, but of course, we've already heard the complaint about glass breaking, but we can't design as if we're under siege either. So, they have plenty of full light doors that are actually thicker style and rail. They would look very nice there.
Yep.
And be appropriate. It's 80s.
Suburban.
How would members feel about instead of the plywood and stucco, could you just, it would look better than stucco?
No, I mean, but it's an old lawn. I mean, I agree with staff. I would see glass, but I also get how that's a weak point for green too.
Not if it's glass block.
Yeah, the glass
Because
block.
when I did it in my house, the guy said, you could open it up with a sledgehammer in about 10 minutes, you're gonna beat on it with a 10-pound
Yeah,
sledgehammer.
no, that's fair. Glass block. I would. prefer glass block.
I agree.
The glass block.
Yeah. Is the roof on the other elevation, is that a standing seam metal roof? It looks like a metal, is that
On the porches is a metal roof.
Okay.
On the main roof is,
rubber?
you talking about the slope
Yeah,
porch?
so the slope portion, that's standing seam metal?
No, that's not. The porch is standing seam metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the main one is, it's not slate, but it looks like.
The height of the white is also the white plywood means it's part of the railing too. Or, because the white's quite high in the existing. But here you show a small area between floor deck and what appears to be the grade. Am I not reading right?
There's no railing.
Yeah, see, that seems to be.
Are you building a new wall that goes down? Is there a vertical wall? Yeah.
Straight on.
Could be,
It's a
yeah.
foreshortening.
Well, calculating for that, it seems a little higher than what you're representing.
Well, we'll double check it, make sure it's
Please.
100% right.
The point I just make about it is that the repetition, the lovely repetition of the porches gives a feel to the whole facade, and it's the closest thing in view. And so what you can do positively to make those better integrated columns, tablature base, to make that a nice composition, you're repeating it 2.5 times. That's going to go a long way, because the rest of the background is pretty neutral, except I agree about the doors. So I think that, again, that's worth getting right.
And maybe there's
And color
piers,
is an option because you're painting, right? So you can make colorful. Doesn't have to be white.
and maybe it's probably okay as a base, but it could be piers below each. Well, yeah, but it could be broken up. It doesn't have to be a horizontal.
Continuous, I agree.
line.
This is a minor thing, but I just realized, are there no gutters and downspouts, or is there sheet off one of them?
Good catch.
Artfully left off the drawing, I think.
Yeah, I.
They're wondering, where are they?
They're so pesky.
They ruin everything.
They make it look horrible, so I chose not to put
Water
them
is so inconvenient.
It's so overrated.
So wait, why are there only 4 chimneys? You're killing it. So there's 4, there aren't 5?
Right.
Interesting. So what does the poor person on the right do?
Well, the last unit, whenever they built that, that's actually 2 units on top of each other.
Huh?
They split it into 2 one-bedrooms at some point in time.
Yeah. That have to do with the chimney.
I think that's when they took it out.
Oh, they took it out.
Oh, they were chimney to get more space.
We need to put the chimney back, okay?
A nice plywood fake up
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Click and stick or something.
You're replacing the stairs on the back as well, the steps? Or
No, those are in good shape.
Good shape?
so it's gonna-
Okay.
Chimney could be a red metal frame. Lit up or something, yeah. Maybe perforated metal, red.
It's kind of.
Like a big horse pillow.
Yeah, yeah, just.
I think there were. Windows.
Much.
Well, I'm not blaming the intern.
Can we go to Street View? Would it be possible? Maybe they'll show up on Street View.
Like a photos, there appear to be.
There is a fifth. I have no idea how it's sitting on anything.
Actually, go to Bird's Eye, go to 3D View, maybe they'll show up.
Yeah, yeah.
Jimmy got photos in the back. Right?
Well, that's the corner there.
You can see the chimney, it's right.
Yeah, it's near the corner.
It's right.
Yeah.
Misleading, annoying.
Is this game conceptual again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a wonderful person.
Give you what you need.
What's that?
Does
Got
that
that?
give you what you need?
Quick question about the window replacements.
The white.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. I mean, as long as, I guess the issue is whether or not it should be off the list, the approved UI.
I thought that was one of the comments the city made, is it needs to be off the approved.
Right, but the approved list is pretty in influx. I mean, I think a vinyl window that goes opening them to without all the extra junk. And I think we are willing to consider, bring us a decent vinyl. Because we've approved other. Problem
Yeah,
solved.
this is staff. I can kind of add to that. So since this, although this building is contributing, since the windows that are being replaced are already vinyl, staff does understand that existing condition and would be okay if it's vinyl. We just typically recommend, you know, that if it is a contributing building to use aluminum clad or wood, but we do understand that the vinyl is existing and they're just replacing vinyl for vinyl. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the University Impact District Report approved window list, I think was done with best of intentions. But I think it was taken off of the HRC approved list, which is a much more stringent requirement. And so I think it's one of these things we've been talking about. We just need to sort of grapple with asking for a reasonable level of quality, but not the same sort of stringency that a C requires. But I think, as you said, Bill, is, I think replacing like for like in this case is reasonable. So bring a decent vinyl window and do it to masonry.
What are you doing with the demi half window, the half rounds? What are you doing with those up in them?
Staff asked for glass.
Wasn't planning on doing anything.
What are they today?
That's how they exist today.
Well, that's a drawing.
They're a stucco infill.
Stucco infill.
Wood?
White. Yeah. Stucco infill.
That is
And the dormers are just boarded over.
I mean, they're just dormers into an unoccupied attic space.
Yes,
Can you get up into the?
I did get up into it.
Well, I don't know how we can force you to do those things. We can suggest that you at least paint the window dark. The fake window dark.
If you really want, you can make it.
It could just be fixed.
Okay, I'm sure what.
Well, there's gotta be access to the attic somewhere.
Well, they certainly don't want to stay white. So,
There's what, 3 dormers, 2 demo.
and they're stucco.
The half round ones are, yes.
And the other ones are plywood.
Yes.
Look, we're giving, I would say, we'll let you do vinyl windows instead of wood or flat, which is gonna be a big money savings. So for some of that savings, put some vinyl.
They're fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fixed, they don't need to be operable.
In the half round as well, or just dormers?
Half round.
Half round. Bradley, is Rhythm the developer and design? Is this a design build for you?
No, it's Rhythm's my company.
Got it. But you're working for someone else.
Yeah, Buckeye Real Estate.
Okay.
Well, that, they can wait.
Wayne retired? Yeah.
You just haven't seen him for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Trust Bradley. What else? We done with this?
So the slope roof does not require replacement. You're gonna keep what's there. Okay, good shape.
It looks like it's in good shape.
Okay, that looks good.
Okay. Any other comments from board? No.
Other than I do see windows in the dormers.
Looks like they.
What were you gonna do?
Those are little trim pieces that are there on top of the plywood. Make it look like a fake window.
Your new ones will look so much better now.
Yes, they will.
So,
So, with Christmas lights behind us.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's up there at the holidays.
Yeah.
Dang.
It's weepy over here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bradley.
guys.
Good to see you.
Next case is UID 22-1-006, 21 East Arcadia Avenue. Oh, we'll do that. Yeah, we, Elvis and I decided on some the other day that was opposed to doing that before the meeting starts. We're going to do individual groups. What often happens is people are here, they have to do happen. And so. Could you all raise your right hand, please? Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Staff report, Dr.
Yes, so 21 East Arcadia Avenue consists of 2 contributing buildings, originally built in the 1940s as a parking lot and car barn for the Columbus streetcar system, and most recently served as an AEP utility building. In September 2017, the board recommended to support the rezoning of the property from C4 to R2F and several council variances. In March 2019, the board reviewed a different application with a different applicant for the exterior modifications, which was tabled due to questions about locating the parking between the building and the right-of-way. Today, the current applicant is seeking conceptual feedback to renovate the existing site and buildings. The east building will serve as a 3-bed, 2-bath home, and the west building will serve as a 5-bed, 6-bath guest house with an FAR of 0.54. Major aspects of the renovation include a 1-story addition to the east building, window replacements to fit the original window openings using a window type from the UIDRB approved window list, new openings, so windows and doors, new exterior lighting, new shade trees, the installation of pavement for 4 parking spots off an existing East Arcadia curb cut, new aluminum fencing in the front, and a new 6-foot privacy fence and gate in the rear. And to accompany the above work, the applicant is also seeking conceptual feedback for new variances or adjustments to previously approved variances, which include to allow 4 parking spaces between the principal building and the right-of-way line. Currently, the CV allows 2 spaces. And then to allow each primary building frontage to have at least 30% of the area between the height of 2 feet and 10 feet above grade shall be clear or non-tinted window glass, permitting a view of the building's interior to a minimum depth of 4 feet instead of 60% per code. The submittal includes existing site photos, a site plan, elevations, renderings, and material selections. And just to take a quick peek at those, we have the site map located here. Here you have the site plan. So you'll see on the top part of the page is Arcadia. So you'll see the existing curb cut leading to the parking spaces. And then on the right side, this is the east building and the proposed 1-story addition in gray. And then on the left side is the existing west building. So you hear a picture of that here. More photos. This is the rear of the 2 buildings. And then this is building 1's north elevation and the south elevation for that building as well. And so you'll see here with this vertical finish, that's going to be the addition to the original building. Here again, the addition to the original building of the west, of the east building, east elevation. And then this is the building that's on the west side of the property. So the north and south elevation, the east and west elevations. And then we have the first floor plan, second floor plan. And then again, this is the west building, first floor plan, second floor plan, 3D view. And then some information about the variances. And then these are some of the conceptual materials for the roofing, siding, windows, doors. And then this was actually received today. So I did not review this as a part of my staff report, but they do have some precedent images for the fencing and screening and also permeable pavers for what I believe is the parking area, but the applicant can speak more to that. So after review of these materials, the proposal is largely consistent with the guidelines of the University District Plan. The plan recommends a site for neighborhood mixed use, which places priority on the preservation of existing contributing buildings and recommends multifamily uses, a max FAR of 0.5 and parking at a rate of 0.75 spaces per bed. The plan states that character defining features of historic buildings be maintained, that the primary facade of buildings address the street, that landscaping be provided in the front setback, and that parking be located to the rear or the side of buildings, and that parking adjacent to the right-of-way be screened. As the proposal preserves the contributing buildings and preserves original architectural features and provides new trees and landscaping in the front setback, staff is generally supportive of the conceptual application. Although staff does not typically support parking between the primary building and the right-of-way, staff supports the location of this site's parking as the preservation of the existing contributing structures is a mitigating factor. Furthermore, to mitigate the impacts of the parking lot location, staff recommends that the parking be completely screened from view of the right-of-way using additional landscaping in addition to the decorative fencing. And staff notes that a final list of variances will be needed for review upon a future request for action. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to add anything to that?
I'm Chad Saber, I'm the owner. I think she did a really good job, just kind of bringing up to speed. The only thing that I'll add is I really look at this as almost identically what was already approved, the council variance. The only issue is that garage that was cut into the other building is physically not going to be possible. And I don't know if the architect hadn't really looked at the grading or the elevations.
I think we questioned that when we reviewed it.
I had a surveyor shoot it. It can't work.
Yeah.
So we either demolish part of that building, which that is the original Old North Trolley Barn, which we are not doing.
Good.
Or we add 1 or 2 spots to the front. So my team here spoke to the original owner that I purchased the building from, and he had kind of relayed some of your concerns with pavers, screening, things like that. I had already contracted MKSK to do the landscape design. So you guys are aware, I mean, they don't joke around. Everything's super well done, high quality. The images that we provided today were kind of last minute just for the commission to look at. We will follow this out. I'm kind of looking at this as, trying to develop these as single family homes. There's going to be another application for the landscaping. Of course, I want to get your input now so we can come back and get the landscaping approved. But right now, what's holding up my building permits are 2 things. The window issue. So we need to talk about the windows, and we can certainly speak to that, especially the 6 that face High Street. There's 6 windows that we have a few options on that I'd like to get your input on. And go back 2 slides. There. So if you can zoom in on those windows, those are the 6 that we have a few options. I don't like any of them, but if we can discuss that, all of the other windows could be filled to the brick. We'd like to propose black fiberglass, either Pella or Marvin. So that I'm really trying to get feedback from the commission so we can provide something to staff in the coming weeks so they can kind of check mark our building permit application to allow that unit to continue. Because the 2 units that are approved on the current council variance are enough to get the permit. We're pulling 2 separate permits, one for this building, one for the other building. So that will allow that to continue to move through the BZS machine. So that's one issue. The other issue is the council variance recommendation. So the only thing in my mind that we're really asking for, you see how big that area is. So I don't want a huge parking lot with a bunch of runoff water, ugly asphalt in front of my buildings. I mean, nobody wants that. So we provided some screening options, and I really like some of these permeable pavers that Unilock makes. So we provided some of those. I don't want this to look like a parking lot. I just want it to be open parking. And I think we'd like to increase the total number to 4. But if we're going 3 or whatever, that's fine. The other option is if we really want to limit the amount of parking, which is not my preferred option, but then we're going to have to add a parking variance to our list of required of the variances that we're asking. So if we can figure out just to take the parking, since we lost the 2-car garage, which isn't possible, if we could put those 2 spots up front. But I think if we screen it properly and we use good permeable pavers, I think it will look good. So that's the main thing. The second thing is the windows on the west building, the way that they have them drawn is to retain the original arches of the trolley barn right there. So those arches have been bricked up.
Wow.
So we want to pull that brick out and restore it.
And those will be fixed windows, obviously, the upper ones.
Yes. And we're thinking that will probably have to be storefront just because I don't think we can get a window manufacturer that would do that. But we're looking at some alternative storefront options where they can do more of something that would look like an original steel window. But we haven't even, I don't think we've gotten into this building as much as the first building, just because I was looking at the first building to live there. So I was kind of, trying to fast track the first one. But we can certainly come back, but again, we didn't want to get too much farther into this until we got some feedback from you guys. The second council variance recommendation, and we can certainly drop that, but there's a requirement that 60% of that addition be glazed, which in a single family home makes absolutely no sense. So I think that the proportions and the windows and doors that Lori and Pilot selected look really good as far as, if you could go to the front view.
North elevation?
Right there. I think I like that proportion. If we could increase that to 60%, but I just don't know if it would, I think that's more appropriate for a retailer commercial use.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, was the process sort of adequately explained to you?
So I've been to every commission but this one. So the university is the only commission I haven't been to. I'm a boutique developer. I do a lot of projects in town, but this is a really unique situation for me. So I would appreciate any feedback.
It's just the way the process works is if you need a variance, you explain us the reasons for the variance. We vote in support or not thereof. The other part of what we do is we issue a certificate of
appropriateness.
Approval, I think is what we call it. But it's necessary to get the building. And the certificate of approval is based on sort of, you meeting, I guess, our approval with regard to the design of the building. And so I think the conversation we probably want to have, based on the murmurs I'm hearing from colleagues, is about the overall design. And I suggested it might be a little more involved than just, oh yeah, we're going to be okay with the window selection in your view. Am I sort of channeling that appropriately?
Having sort of trouble understanding. We did approve something for this?
That was my next question.
So the seller that sold the property to Chad came in because he wanted to turn it into his home. And I think Triad was the architect, and he had a design, and we chatted about it, and then he disappeared. And
Well, he had problems because there was also a kind of a bed and breakfast aspect to what he wanted. And as I understand it, a large part of it depended upon the inability to almost bring utilities in some places due to peculiarities of the building and the thickness of the walls and other things, that it was a much more of an undertaking than he was anticipating.
yeah, I mean, it's an industrial building, it lacks.
Right, exactly.
Plumbing,
It was more,
insulation.
So whatever we had approved was, as County said, for that particular case.
Well, we didn't approve it. So
Not
we
approved,
saw
but
it.
that we
But
were
we
pursuing
never
with them.
granted.
And this is staff. I just wanted to give some context.
It's not only an unusual building, but it has a sort of a link that is very special to the development of the area with the whole North Columbus streetcar line, which was actually developed by Henry Neal, the
Right.
son of the William Neal farm. So it's an oddball thing, but it's the last of the buildings of the old North Columbus that reflect a lot of the car barns and ties more in, I guess, in a historical sense with the motormen's cottages that are Ramlow Alley that never had bathrooms or kitchens. They were literally sleeping quarters that go down Ramlow. So this whole little node is peculiar, interesting, and definitely takes some imagination to figure out how to deal with it. So it's good that you're kind of thinking about all those possibilities.
You mentioned
Yeah,
consultation.
and this is staff. I just wanted to clarify, why, because I did speak with the applicant about, going in for a request for action versus going in for a conceptual review. And what we understood was the applicant's still working with building and zoning services to really nail down the final list of variances. And so until we have that final confirmed list of variances from Building and Zoning Services, you know, we thought it'd be better to come before the board for a conceptual review first, to just get a feel for the design and how that relates to the variances. And then once we have that final list of variances from Building and Zoning Services, the applicant can come back for a request for action. So I just wanted to give that additional context.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
But still, because he's talking about council variances. Council variances are use variances. Is there a use variance here?
No, so there's no use variances. It's just the two, so far, it's just the two that I listed in the staff report. But I think the applicant's just still working with Building and Zoning Services to make sure that those are the variances and to make sure that the wording of the variances is correct before they come before a request for action on those. But the use is all good.
So are they BZA variances then?
No, it's my understanding that we have to amend our current council variance.
You have a council variance already.
Correct.
That's what allowed the R2 use.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a use issue. Yes, okay, but you have to amend it. Okay, that's not our problem.
Amend it to, yeah, amend it to
There's two things we have to amend. And I think,
parking and the blazing.
yes,
I mean, the glazing work, because most stuff in the district is commercial. So
Sure.
it makes sense. I mean, I personally wouldn't have any percentage. I'm a little bit on the fence about parking. I was present for the previous applicant. I was on the fence about 2 parking spaces then, as opposed to the grassy lawn. Even for your neighbors, I don't necessarily want to work. So I'm just gonna say right now, I'm not yet. I think the big thing is, so Chad, your intent is to occupy one building and then rent the other?
rent the other, correct.
I mean, they're great buildings. I think it's a great opportunity. It's got its challenges. I think probably from our standpoint, I think the biggest thing is likely the aesthetics of the addition to the north building, which I think probably requires some finesse.
Well, you understand that there's nothing that we have approved on this building. So you're not here to modify something. You're here starting from scratch as far as we're concerned, okay?
Correct. So there's,
Okay, so starting from scratch, simply, what is it you're doing as a whole? And what is your design, did you design it?
Lorraine and Kyle did.
Well, then maybe they should talk to us about the design. And then we can comment about it. But we can't think about it in little pieces, we have to think about it as a whole project. So we'd like to understand what the whole project is, and then we can give comment. If that makes sense.
And that's what I was saying, is that the scope of the project is the same as when you approve the
But
recommendation.
we don't remember that stuff.
But I'll let them
We need you to just, we're not that smart, okay?
Okay.
So if you just present the project, please, not the history, we don't care about the history. I don't mean the history Doreen's talking about, I mean the history of the project, okay?
Sorry, I apologize, we didn't quite get the process down, but we've been working on this for a bit of time with Chad. Obviously, the opportunity to be able to go in and look at the building with fresh eyes. It's a beautiful building. A lot of the interior brick is gorgeous, and we wanted to respect the building as it is and give the life back to it that it once had. And we found old photographs, we found original drawings. So we have a better understanding about where we're starting from. From that point, again, Chad is absolutely right. We saw where the arches used to be. We wanted to restore those arches. There's some steel beams on the interior that we wanted to retain. But then obviously provide the new use. And so a lot of the things that we wanted to do is be able to give the project a new entry. We built the entry off the north building. While it's beautiful, it probably didn't quite give the correct feeling we wanted for entering the use. We wanted to be able to have like a private and a public access. So Kyle and I have developed this addition, and Kyle, if you want, can you walk through the plans? I don't know if you have the plans in the packet.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, what is the space that is the addition?
Yeah.
What is that?
So it's, if you walk in, it's basically a vestibule and
Is there a
library.
drawing?
And there should be something in the packet, that's right there.
Okay, well, it's just, I couldn't tell from the plans, one open volume space with furniture down the middle of it.
Okay,
Yeah, so
that's
it's a
fine.
library.
It's a
basically.
library.
So when you walk in, it's basically you walk into an entry space, you see the library, and beyond the library, you'll see a set of doors right there that look out into the courtyard.
So there are bookshelves all
And
around.
there's bookshelves, and there's also,
There's a lot of windows on this, on the west side.
Fireplaces in it.
the fireplace is there as well. So it kind of, there'll be
Yeah.
seating groups that allow for the bookshelves and the fireplace to be there. So you come in, it's sort of
Where's the
a resting
fireplace?
spot.
Could you do me a favor? Could you go stand there and point the thing? Roll Jackson.
We don't have a laser pointer, we're sorry.
That's great, no worries.
Go fish. All right, Jim and Dana.
Do it, man.
Okay, so front entry here, we've got a fireplace in the middle, and lined on either side of the bookshelf. So we'll have some seating around. And really what this addition allows us to do is there's some difficulties with, as we're talking about this, the concrete slab, there's multiple heights in this building. So really this addition allows us to mediate between this portion here is full of steel. It's a step up from the rest. Where by creating this addition, we can come in, it can move an easier transition there.
So what are the levels?
It's just a step down here, but right now, given
Okay,
the.
section, where's the section? What you're talking about? Okay, so
So you're in the library, you step down into the kitchen.
Yes.
there, but
One step.
but that gray area is the same level as quote entry?
Yes.
The reason why is there are concrete, basically they were feet for the equipment, so we had to keep a different level right there.
So the entry is on the same level as this high portion,
Yeah.
the existing high portion.
You step down
And
and
you step down, right?
Yeah.
You step down into the back too, from home. Yes, okay, go ahead.
And then, so now we're in the same building, kitchen, dining, living space, all here with the existing opening. There are also some of these existing original tall skinny windows throughout the side that have been bricked up. At some point, we're proposing to open them back up.
What are those vertical lines?
This here is an outdoor deck. So currently, I mean, this is on the area now, but yeah, there's definitely that's sort of for the use. You guys are taking. Well, yeah, we're leaving one here, but yeah, they're pretty. Torn out. But yeah, basically that's why we're the wall right there. So this would be a step out to a deck. And there's an existing stair, existing door out the back. So really, this is create a new front entry and sort of tie the space.
So the double doors are not going to be functional to the living room?
No, that makes sense.
yeah, there's a platform that leads up to them.
Yeah.
So there'll be a sign that says go the other way.
The landscaping would be oriented toward.
And then this is open all the way to the clear story? There's not a second floor?
There is a second floor.
Okay.
Yep, and that's existing second floor there.
But the landscaping takes you to the door. You go down that side opening, you go, whoop.
The reason we retained the addition is because it was part of the original council variance.
Well, I don't think that we have a problem.
For
In
it-
addition,
Well, let's just be clear. I mean, council variance for 2 parking spaces to change use to R2.
Right.
The council doesn't give a shit about the addition or the aesthetics of the addition. That was sort of the initial design that.
Our attorneys have given us, since the addition was on the original council variance, that would require modification, which we're gonna have to do
who's
anyway.
your attorney?
Dave Perry.
Dave Perry,
And Don Blank.
not an attorney, but Don
Yeah.
Blank's the attorney, yes. Okay, so this addition, why do you want to put this addition that seems to be totally consistent with the rest of everything? It's sort of weird. The proportions are sort of funny.
I think we need more square footage, so.
We don't care about the size, it's just that it's, you've got this building that's sort of an iconic building. And you've added this suburban lean-to onto it. And
You
it's
think
just-
that that's suburban, so.
Yes, sir. And
Disagree.
it just doesn't seem to work.
I mean, I think the challenge here is you've got a unique site in Arcadia. And I think fundamentally, I think towards your goals, it'd be nice to see what's on the occupancy building. I think probably the issue is the renovations of the existing building could be a little better finesse and a little more, I think, sympathetic character. I mean, I would agree with sort of monoslope shed windows and the vertical siding maybe doesn't live up to the original building in terms of being an addition of caliber. And go back to I think there's something else. Yeah, and I mean, like the back, it's got those big French doors, steel beam coming out, the hoist beam putting up. And again, the sort of infilling the bottom third of the sheet metal, not sheet, standing seam metal. Like it all needs a little.
Would there be no desire to occupy the roof of the library, like coming out of the upper floor and having that ability to occupy that space? I mean, I feel like we're all saying the same thing here, and I really want to underscore what Keone says. It's a really exciting prospect. I'm really supportive of the fact that you're going to live there, you're going to develop the space there. We're really just talking about how you're proposing to it right now, and potentially thinking about other ways to do it. And I agree with what's been said, that everything about the expression of the additive architecture doesn't cohere or do anything to support the language and the qualities of the earlier industrial architecture. And I think there are a lot of ways that you could do that, even with a very distinct form, even with a primarily glass envelope. I think you could do things. For instance, if you used a parapet that kept the horizontal lines and had the sloped element behind it, you hide the differentiation form, but you can keep some connective language. I'm really confused by the language of doors. Here you've got an element that's completely symmetrical, big double doors, symmetrical on that facade, and a platform that leads up to it without handrails. And then adjacent to that, you've got a door squeezed way too tight to the sideline. Proportions between door, window, elevation language are disturbing. Sideways slide into it with the way it's drawn in the site plan. It's very confusing about how you would ever get to that door. And then the lack of connectivity between anything about proportions of fenestration parts related to these. And then you've got large vertical windows that look out on a 12-foot wide space to the west to the other building. It's really like when you see that, if that were something you were experiencing from a distance, one thing, but it's tight. Those windows are looking onto 12 feet of space.
We
So-
actually have a plan for that, but I agree.
All right, I just feel like there's the potential for this is so strong and so beautiful that what we're seeing right now is not living up to that potential.
And a funny column, we.
The weak column in the corner, I believe.
Well, it's also,
What weak column are you referencing?
The column on the northwest corner by the entry into the library.
Oh, okay. I think the goal is to try to make it look like an addition that had been added later. I think every time I've tried to match the grandeur or architectural character of an existing warehouse, we've never been able to do it right. Unless we make it literally look like an afterthought added later at some point. If, you know, I like your idea about the parapet wall, but if we try to match the brick, you just cannot match that brick, right?
No, we're not saying match the brick. Nobody's
But I
saying
agree
match
with
the
you.
brick. We're talking about other formal conditions like symmetry or local symmetries,
What-
horizontality with the parapet. And why the second door? I mean, why not use the door into the living room as the primary entrance to the home and have that lovely library?
We were going off the set of plans that was recommended for council variance approval. They had an addition with the second door, and it was our original intent to try to just keep what.
Why copy something that's bad?
Well-
Make it better. Do
I'm
what you
puzzled.
want.
I'm puzzled by that because the council variance would have just been change of use in parking space.
Not a word.
The council variance would not be tied to the aesthetics of the building.
There
And
were
council doesn't
Council
have
doesn't-
jurisdiction.
Doesn't have jurisdiction
Over aesthetics.
lot coverage ratios and square footages were provided to city council.
Sure, those
That's
are,
fine.
that's
So-
not aesthetics. That's measurables. Those are metrics.
This is what happens when I get involved in someone else's mess. So if I had had this from the beginning.
Trust your architect.
But-
You have a fabulous architect.
So,
Yeah,
so, you know, another thing is, the entrance, if you want a new entrance, I would consider it around the corner.
so
not
I
in the
don't
front.
want a new entrance actually. So I don't like the other entrance. I'm completely agreeing with everything. So.
Let me ask you another question. Why would you worry so much about it? I mean, council gave you variance. If you wanted to change things, you could get another variance. I mean, we're gonna, if you have our support, you know.
Right, we'll give it to us if we have your support, I agree.
So I think the point is still to feel blocked by the previous scheme.
Okay.
You could never approve anything.
What do you guys think about just getting rid of the addition completely versus trying to take another look at it, trying to change
You
it?
don't want a library?
Misunderstand our position.
I'm okay with getting rid of it,
We're
honestly,
happy any way you want to do it, okay? We just want it done well, that's all. If
right?
you want an addition, fine. If you don't want an addition, fine. We have no opinion about that. You know, I have a sense, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Lori Benson.
Lori,
Yes.
I have a sense that you felt like you were making a camel here and, you know, sort of torn different ways of trying to solve, you know, do this and that. You know, if you just sort of forget everything and do something that you like, I suspect we have less trouble.
Well, I think just looking at this shot right here, just in my opinion, it is going to be almost impossible to put any addition on that is going to do that building justice.
Not true.
Not true. Trust your
But-
architect.
But
You'll have a million.
I also don't want to spend 3 more months trying to figure out what that looks like.
Well, I mean, so that's my process, and I
Yeah.
think that's the challenge. You can't come here with something and expect to just have it go through immediately. That's not how we work, and we'll work with you, and we're not going to drag out a process necessarily, but we're also not going to, the owner wants it done this month, therefore, we're just gonna rubber stamp.
In addition, here, that's a library that is windows with framework in between. It's easy as cake design, okay? It's got to be simple. It's got to be, you know, three-sided, you know, it's easy. It's when you try to
One of the things
push
I
it
really
this,
like.
push it that, you know, you get mush.
One of the things I really like about the implication of a library hanging off the side is the idea that it's going to give a sense of width to an otherwise extremely narrow space and begin to work with the quality of light that you bring in. So I very much support the idea of the added appendage that then has to make an architectural accommodation, has to be really beautifully designed to talk to the other architecture, but not mimic it, not try to replicate it. So I think the idea of expanding the form on that side is a great, if I were living there, I'd want that. I don't understand why there's a fireplace in the middle of the library, but you know, I think there are wonderful things to be done that really enhance that. I just think it's a great little design prop to study the options. And I'd love to see you come back with more solutions to that.
Yeah.
I also feel like what you're saying here, and what you want us to understand, a really key part of the next presentation is going to be drawings that show the intentions. So when we look exactly at this site, we should be seeing the intentions for trees, walls, garden walls, and so on. I like the idea that you'd be composing lattice walls or walls that are translucent that cover the parking on that side, and particularly using more green opportunities, bushes, trees, and so on. But we're going to need to see that, not this. We don't need to see this. We need to see how it's going to look from the north, from Arcadia.
Sure. Do you guys have any general conceptual comments on the screening or the pavers to be used? So when we come back next month, I'll bring the landscape architect, and Rachel can comment on that. But if you have any general direction, that would be great. Are you okay with the cast concrete? And the reason, the middle picture on the upper middle, and then also on the left, I'd like to use that cast concrete to make the grade up. The difference in the grade is pretty dramatic. So if we could use that concrete to keep the fencing the same level all the way across, I think that's our goal. And we're also thinking about some sort of retractable
I don't have a
gate.
problem with that, Chad. I think the more consistent you can have between the landscape architecture and the building architecture, the better. So to make sure that it doesn't look like it's designed by completely different thinkers, aesthetics, but that it really looks like it's the same concept.
I mean, what I think I like about the general direction you're going is you've got clearly a very industrial building, sans the addition. And I think that every other element of the building, I think what KB's saying, needs to respond to that. So I think it needs to be really simple and crisp and clean, which I think you're doing. As it relates to the pavers, I don't necessarily mind it. I think this was a comment I had however many years ago when I initially came here I think what it needs to look like is a courtyard, not a parking lot. So to the extent that it looks like a courtyard, you could just as easily spend an afternoon with a glass of wine in your hand as opposed to as park a car, then it'll be successful. If it looks like a parking lot, it's not going to be successful. So, and that's that's how it's screened, how the material works, how it relates spatially to the building.
Parking is casual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Park anywhere you want.
It's casual.
Yeah.
Talk to us about these half-arched openings. I don't understand a half-arched opening. Is that how they are or work?
I think the story is three, but I think they sliced off part of the original lake barn and.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah.
Look at that.
The building had at least 7 modifications in a
Yeah.
70-year period. So throughout the years, they have been sliced off.
I don't, because that's.
I just was curious about it.
Yeah.
Now I see the right one was sliced off. The one on the left, I'm not sure what's going on with that.
But it's a big sliding. I think it's
That window, that door or window, or whatever it is you got in between those two windows, that's kind of neat. Is that there?
That's where the large sliding door is. Is that the main?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm just saying, this,
I'm not convinced.
this is an uncomfortable opening in between.
Yes, it's existing.
It's the existing door. Yeah, I don't like it either.
Break it up.
What about worse things?
It's like salt. It's salt on the farm, part of the farm, part of salt.
Oh, yeah.
Those are, I believe those are steel doors, probably from a coal furnace at some point.
The new front door you put in, so how is that door taller than the windows and the doors that exist? Show your front elevation. Oh, do we don't understand?
Oh, sorry, I'm encouraging you to stay tuned. That's a good suggestion.
The front elevation.
Yeah.
We can send that to you.
Please, stop it.
The front elevation.
Sorry?
Front elevation.
Oh,
I'm asking about the height of that door. What's going on? Is that a 6/8 door, that's an 8/0 door. I mean, it doesn't matter, I was curious, this kind of looks like this one. It's
Different
kind of-
scales.
They're different scales, like they're not the same building. Or not the same scale or something.
Yeah, I think.
But I understand
I
that.
mean, so my comment on the addition that other builds are, so when I look at the elevation, and I don't feel so much about the west elevation, which is primarily glazing, but when I look at this, it just looks so much heavier, which is odd because the other building's brick, but it just visually appears heavy compared to the building on the left, which strikes me as odd.
We're starting to keep it dead buildings. So I think we should move
Okay,
on.
that's fine.
Have we answered? Have we answered?
Hey, guys, thank you.
Let me, look, I think generally,
I did have one quick thing on those 6 windows that face High Street. Our 3 window suppliers could not get either a fiberglass or a wood clad window that will fill that opening completely.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. So they're very wide and to get the egress, and fill the opening, we're gonna have to have a few inches on either side of the window, which we can use brake metal to cover. And I really don't like those options, and we're looking into other suppliers. Right, yep, those windows right
Well,
there.
they don't all have to be egress windows, only one per bedroom.
So those are all bedrooms along that
So
side.
there's 6 bedrooms?
There's 3
Three
bedrooms and a bathroom and 2 bathrooms.
So those are fixed windows now, correct?
Those are fixed now.
So these are architects. I'm just curious, when you do that, could it be like a window that opens like this or could open like this?
if you want to spend a boatload of money buying hose steel windows, you can maybe get small. I get this.
We could also do
What if you
flat
did 2
vinyl.
windows? What if you did window over a window?
So that's actually what our window manufacturer is
Okay,
suggesting.
So bring it to us.
But
We'd rather you didn't fill in the sides though.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, would we live with something other than fiberglass? And the answer is yes.
Okay,
So I'm just curious, when I look at that, how wide is that window?
48 inches,
And how tall is it?
83 and a half.
That's 7 feet, about.
17.
Yeah, just on.
6, 7, 11.
So we can put an awning on top or on below. But even then, we'd still have a width issue because the max width is 37 and a half or 38 and a half.
Do 4 windows.
What was that?
Do 4 windows.
4 windows? Oh, you mean this way? But we wouldn't get egress on if we did 4.
2 over 1.
Got 2 feet wide.
I don't know, we can go back to the.
And honestly, it doesn't have to be necessarily split down the middle. It could be eccentric.
I was just trying to get that, we've done historic restoration with HRC before.
We're not trying to historically,
We're not interested.
you know, we're interested in what.
Yeah, I mean, look,
Okay,
we're interested in a good design, not interested in historic preservation. We're not HRC. So I think we're open to other materials for the window system, and we're open to, renovating the building in a way that is sympathetic aesthetically, but not necessarily historically 100% accurate. I think the thing to do is to be sympathetic to the existing building. And if you want an addition, we're supportive of it, but make it a good addition that is elegant and a composition that supports the existing building. And I don't know Lori personally, but I know her by reputation, and I'm sure she's capable of it.
I had originally envisioned a glass conservatory,
Go for it.
which would have metal and huge windows all the way around. So almost like a cube, like a square.
I think that would be lovely. I mean, I could see essentially a sort of pavilion,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like something like North Bank Park. Almost.
Yes,
Along those
I
lines.
think, I think it might want to be a little more abstract. I think it might not want to be historicist like North
Sure.
Bank. But I think the problem you're having here is you appeal beholden to the previous scheme, which was not actually approved.
Holding on to hope that we can use that variance, but now apparently.
Well,
we're not.
I'm not sure that, I, you should talk to your attorney, because if the variance does not, a variance is parking spaces or mass or bulk
Okay.
or height.
We're gonna have to amend it anyway.
It's not a looks.
Talk to Dave. He used to staff this.
Oh, sure,
board. Did you
sure.
know that?
I worked with Dave for 10 years. This is so crazy that I've never been to this
We
commission.
gotta move on. Thanks.
Okay, yes.
Okay, thanks. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll get him.
All right, I think that's it.
Now we
Staff,
staff review.
yes.
Yeah, so the next thing is, we need to, vote to enter the staff-approved applications, into the formal record. So that's the next thing.
Fine.
So is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign.
Okay, great. And then next, I just have an item of old business. So it's regarding the approved window list update. And I'll stop sharing. So I'm sorry.
Nothing.
Oh, okay. So, the board had expressed that, that to add the possibility of adding windows to the approved windows list that get approved by the board, thinking about precedent for future applications. And so I had, 3 or 4 meetings with management and then also Jamie Goodman, our historic preservation officer. And what it came down to was this is obviously a very valid request. And generally we like staff approvals. It creates efficiency, it lessens time. But what I've learned is that so windows are a very nuanced thing, and the appropriateness of a window can change depending on the building. And really, the window list that we currently have has been tested for longevity, and we don't really want to water down the impact of the approved window list. And so the UIDRB window list is actually different than the historic preservation window list. Some windows cross over from that list, but it's not as extensive because we didn't want it to be as stringent as, the HPO list. But nevertheless, we don't want to water down the impact of that list by just kind of adding windows on as they may be approved by the board because they haven't been tested for longevity, and we're not sure how they would perform over time. So what we can offer is, we are going to keep things how they are. But I did look last year, there are only 4 cases where the board had to review windows last year. And so moving forward, I'm going to make sure that I give clear recommendation of support or not support for window cases to better guide the board. I will continue to consult our historic preservation team on every proposal that includes windows that fall outside of the approved window list. And then if an applicant would like to swap out windows, I'm going to be asking for documentation to demonstrate that the windows are beyond past their life and beyond repair. Now, this is all for contributing buildings that I'm talking about. And then keeping in line with our plan guidelines, we're going to continue to support sustainability and to maintain the original character of contributing buildings. And so best practice moving forward that I'm going to be consistent on is to not support vinyl windows on contributing structures just because of longevity issues, and then not supporting downsizing windows on contributing structures, like maintaining that original opening. And then we will support the repair of original windows on contributing structures and new window types that are on the approved window list. So that's where we are now. Obviously, it can change on a case-by-case basis, and, these rules aren't hard and fast, but that's generally what our best practice will be now moving forward. And, it's been recommended that we kind of test this for a year. And if we still have concerns after a year, we can, of course, revisit the issue and go from there. But that's sort of where we've landed between management and our historic preservation officer. Any questions, comments on that?
I plan comments, but I think folks want to go, so I'll reserve.
Yeah, and feel free to email me as well. That's fine too if you want to just email me individually as well. So,
Okay.
all right. Well,
How's your eyesight? How you doing?
it's great. My eyes healed now, and so I've been cleared to go out and about. So I'll be returning to the office on Monday. And yeah, I can see better than I've ever seen in my working memory. And once I have, these are clear glasses, but once I have my prescription glasses, I'll be seeing at 20/20. So it's a success.
Oh, great. That is great news.
And you look younger too.
Oh, well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you. And I will see you in person next month. So
Oh,
thanks,
lovely.
everyone.
Good.
Okay. Have a good night.
Thanks, Douglas.
Thank you. Bye.